Okay, we're looking at Henry David Thoreau's Resistance to Civil Government. He wrote it after spending some time he spent a night in jail because he wouldn't pay a tax. You can read all this in the background, but he wouldn't pay a tax because the United States had just gone to war with Mexico. And he did not agree with the war. He thought the war was just a way to extend slavery in the South. And so he was opposed to it because he was opposed to slavery. So, to show his discontent or his disagreement with the government, he decided to not pay his taxes. And because of that, he went to jail. He got out sooner than he would have because his aunt went and paid it for him. So, what we're going to do here is I'm just going to go through this first part and then we'll get to the next video. So, just trying to help you understand this. It's a tough text. I've tried to give you some help here. Hopefully this video will help you out. So pay attention, answer the questions as you go. I've got the quiz pulled up here too. Okay, and you can read all this, but he's going to talk about civil disobedience. Civil disobedience it's basically just protesting peacefully something you don't like, especially the laws. Usually is how that happens. Like, for example, not obeying the laws. Disobedience. It's civil disobedience. Civil as in it's not violent. Disobedience as in you're not doing what you're supposed to. Okay, so it's nonviolent, but they're not calling it like criminal activity. Okay, it's not like running around stealing stuff from people. This is you're breaking certain laws. So an example would be like in the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, those guys they would break certain laws. They would have restaurant sit-ins where the law was the local law, and the town would be no blacks could be in this certain part of the restaurant. They'd go sit there. That's breaking the law, but they're doing it. It's motivated by conscience, trying to show that this is wrong. You shouldn't do it. Right? Rosa Parks wouldn't get off her seat in the bus. I just told you about Thoreau. Another one that it's not really a law, but it is kind of get the idea of like the football players that kneel during the national anthem. It's a peaceful protest. They don't like something, and so they're showing their discontent with it. Okay, that's not like breaking a law, obviously, but not civil disobedience. A terrorist attack, definitely not civil disobedience. That is just being violent and opposition. Armed rebellion, that's violent opposition. Just breaking the law, writing a stop sign because you're in a hurry, that's not civil disobedience. You're just doing it because it's inconvenient for you. It's not. Civil disobedience is about doing it because it's right and wrong. There's something that's completely unjust. It's not like I'm going to wear my hat to school because I want to. I'm going to wear my hat to show everybody that the man can't keep me down. Okay, it's motivated. This is wrong. This is hurting the bald people who can't wear their hats to school. Okay, yeah, it's not really a good excuse to wear your hat. So, not your problem right now, though, is it? So, video number one. Oh, we're still doing video number one. Anyway, here he says, I hardly accept the motto. I'm in the text now. I heartily accept the motto that government is best which governs least. Okay, it's a paradox. How can the government be good if it doesn't govern? Okay, he's just saying, he says government's good if it doesn't do a lot. Government that's doing too much is not a good government. It shouldn't do too much. And I should like to see it acted up to more rapidly and systematically. You'd like to see the government do less, in other words. Carried out, it finally amounts to this, which also I believe, that that government is best which governs not at all. And when men are prepared for it, that will be the kind of government which they will have. He says when we're ready for it, we can not have a government. In other words, one day when we're all wonderful, we won't need government to tell us what to make rules and stuff. But for right now, we still need them. Government is at best but an expedient, a means to an end. Okay, we need it to keep us safe and that kind of stuff, protect our rights. But most governments are usually, and all governments are sometimes, inexpedient. They don't serve a higher purpose. They just serve themselves. They serve a group of people is what he's saying. He says governments aren't always great. And so again, you've got to think about it. He's explaining why it's good to resist the government sometimes. Okay. And so he goes on and says, the objections which have been brought against a standing army, and they are many and weighty and deserve to prevail, may also at last be brought against a standing government. Okay, the standing armies are when we have a standing army in our country. We always have an army ready to fight. It used to be they didn't like that because back in the early United States, they didn't want standing armies because they said, well, what's the army there for if it's not for a war? If you're not having a war, why would you have an army? You're just going to use it to oppress the people. So he says the same thing happens with the standing government. If the government's just always there, it's just there for itself. It's not there to serve a purpose. The standing army is only an arm of the standing government. The government itself, which is only the mode which the people have chosen to execute their will. So the purpose of government is to execute the will of the people. We're in our country, the government's supposed to do what the people want them to do. The government itself, which is only the mode which the people have chosen to execute their will, is equally liable to be abused and perverted before the people can act through it. Okay, he says before you can even do anything, the government's going to start getting abused. Witness the present Mexican War, the work of comparatively a few individuals using the standing government as their tool. For in the outset, the people would not have consented to this measure. He says the people would have never gone to war with Mexico. It's because one group of people in the government have taken control, and they're using the government to do what they want to. Okay, he's using logos here. So I like my sweet pictures here. Logos, because I can't draw this on the board for you. Government is meant to do the people's will. Well, it can be abused. This is his logic. Remember, he's doing logic. This is why it's okay to resist the government. The government's not always right. It's meant to do the people's will, but it doesn't always because it gets abused by a few people. A few men can use the government for themselves instead of people's will. I should put women. I apologize. Women can also be corrupt. A few men can use the government for themselves instead of the people's will. And he gives an example, the war with Mexico. That's logic. He's saying, look, logically, the government's meant to do our will. It doesn't always. And the conclusion here is government's not always trustworthy. The government's sometimes going to do things that are wrong. Okay, then he goes over here and says, and again, I told you the paradox. Government is best. It doesn't govern. Government's purpose is to govern. So it's a figurative meaning. He's not just saying we should just get rid of government. He's just saying government shouldn't do so much. Okay, it shouldn't limit us too much. All right. Now that's paragraph 1. See the 1 right there? That means it's paragraph 1. You'll see on the next paragraph, it's paragraph 2. Okay. So question 1, why did Henry David Thoreau spend a night in prison in July 1846? I'll let you answer that. Question 2 also goes with paragraph 1. What is Thoreau implying when he uses the paradoxes the government is best, which governs least, and that government is best, which governs not at all? We just did that. And paragraph 1 again is question 3, paragraph 1. Which statement best summarizes Thoreau's view of the government according to paragraph 1? And question 4 is also from paragraph 1. What example does Thoreau use to illustrate his point that government power is often abused by a small group of people? He gives an example. What? Did I write that right there? Example, war with Mexico? Ooh, I hope you don't use that to get the right answer. Okay, I will stop. You answer those questions and we'll pick it up in the next video.